We're talking about Chapter 5, Section 4, the triangle midsegment theorem. Your objective is to prove and use properties of triangle midsegments. I want you to pause the video, take a look at your agendas, and find that DOK chart so that you can write your questions. First, we're going to talk about the midsegments of a triangle, and that is when you cut both sides in half, hence they start at the midpoints. This side is also cut in half, the midpoint, and it is the segment created by the midpoints. First, we're going to start out with the little coordinate proof. It says the vertices of x, y, and z are x at -1, 8, y at 9, 2, and z at 3, -4. M and N are midpoints of xz and yz. You need to show that these two lines are parallel, or these two segments are parallel, and you need to show that MN is half of xy. If it would help you to draw the triangle, go ahead and do that. But because it tells us exactly what they want, we can start by first figuring out what the coordinates of M and N are. They already told us that these 2 points are the midpoints of xz, so I need to find the midpoint of xz. And I also have to find the midpoint of yz, which is going to be point N. So first we're finding the midpoint of xz, which is going to be -1 plus 3 over 2. And if you want to go ahead and pause the video right now and see if you can finish these two midpoints on your own, I think that would be a good idea. And then the y value is going to be 8 plus a -4 over 2. And this should give you 1, 2 as your midpoint. And then we also need to find the midpoint of yz. Midpoint of yz, which should be 9 plus 3 over 2 and 2 plus a -4 over 2. And if I work that out, that will give me 6, -1. Alright, so these 2 points that we found are x, z, m, and n's coordinates. After we figure out what the midpoints are, we need to talk about their slopes because we need to see if they're parallel. And their slopes are going to be parallel if they are if they're the same slope. Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. So now we need to check out their slopes. So the slope for MN, now that we have those 2 points, is going to be the change in y over the change in x, so that's -1 minus 2 over 6 minus 1, and I'm using these 2 points that we found earlier in case you haven't figured that out. And this is going to give me a -3/5. And then if I find the slope for xy, slope of xy, I can use the original coordinates, xy here, on that other sheet. And that's going to give me 2 minus 8 over 9 minus a -1, which is also going to be -3/5. Because the slopes are the same, I know that these two lines are parallel. The last thing we need to do is to compare their lengths. If I have MN and XY, the original points from the problem, MN, and we're going to use XY, we can find their lengths by using the distance formula. So I have MN is equal to the square root of 6 minus 1 squared plus a -1 minus 2 squared. And that should give me, if you work it out, the square root of 34. I have xy and that one would be 9 minus a negative 1 squared plus 2 minus 8 squared. And again, if I work that out, this one is going to give me 2 times root 34. So because this is twice as much as the first segment, xy is twice as much as mn, I know that mn is half of xy, which is another part of our problem. So we proved that they're parallel, and we proved that one is half of the other. The shorter one is half the other. The reason why we did that is because it talks about the triangle midsegment theorem. So you just proved the triangle midsegment theorem. That says if I have a midpoint to two of the sides in a triangle and I connect them, this line that I've created is going to be half of that baseline for that triangle. So now we're going to use that triangle midsegment theorem to figure out the answers to a few questions. First, we need to find the measure of JL. So JL is what we're looking for, and I have PN as 36. The triangle midsegment theorem, because these two sections are congruent, I know that's the midsegment, and because these two sections are congruent, I know that's the midsegment. Because this segment was created, midpoints. From the two midpoints, it's going to be half of this one here. So I can say that PN is going to be half of JL. And then I can go ahead and say that JL, if PN is half of JL, that means JL is going to be twice 36. 2 times 36 is 72. JL, which is what we were looking for, is 72. See if you can figure this one out on your own. Pause the video and then come back. Again, we're using the midsegment theorem. It says that we need to find PM now. So PM is what we're looking for. I know LK, this whole segment here, is 97. So I can say that, and I have this segment congruent to this segment, that one congruent to that one, so I know that these two are midpoints. So by the triangle midsegment theorem, I can say that this is going to be half of that length. So I'm going to say PM is equal to half of LK. And then I know that LK is 97. So half of 97 is going to equal PM. If I multiply that out, I get PM is equal to 48.5 or 48.5. Alright, this is the last one. You have to find the measure of MLK. So MLK is this angle here. This is the one that we're looking for. The midsegment theorem says that these two lines are parallel, and we found that out when we were doing the very first example. You proved that they were parallel because they had the same slope. So I can say that segment MP is parallel to segment LK. And because those two lines are parallel, I know that the measure of MLK is going to equal the measure of JMP, and those are corresponding angles. So that was the measure of angle MLK, and that's going to equal the measure of angle JMP, and they use similar triangles because this triangle is going to be similar to this one. And then you can substitute, so I have the measure of angle MLK is equal to, and then these two we said were the same, this one's 120, so, or 102, sorry. So this one's equal to 102 as well. Today you're going to take a quiz on 5-4, so go back onto Edmodo if you've exited or if you're watching this on YouTube. and find the quiz so that you can take the quiz. There are 3 questions, and it is part of your grade, so make sure you go back and look for that. If you have any other questions, go ahead and write them underneath your summary so that we can talk about them tomorrow.